There's always going to be a good market and there's always going to be a bad market, right? There are things you shouldn't do and there are things you should do.
Today we have Michael Saylor talking about the rising value of Bitcoin and why MicroStrategy is doing something that ETFs cannot. As the pricing on Wall Street continues to erode trust with investors, we're starting to see the negative effects on the market as we head into the fourth quarter of 2023. Saylor says Bitcoin's value will be put on full display before the halving of 2024. With investors and crypto analysts saying that whenever there's a sell-off to be aware of any projections that indicate a lower price point, Saylor echoes this sentiment, as an ETF approval will bring massive capital into the crypto space in the last part of the year. He's been warning people about the collapse of fiat currencies and why Bitcoin is a significantly better store of value. Saylor gives his 3 strategies for buying Bitcoin and the current investment advantage that MicroStrategy holds over every other company in the market. Let's get into the latest interview with Michael Saylor as he discusses Bitcoin's role in 2023 and how it will revolutionize the entire crypto ecosystem. Also, we have just partnered with our friends over at Jamie Tree Finance, who have just launched a daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part, it's absolutely free. So to give out as much value to you as possible, we're sending out a 5-minute daily newsletter which will cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news that you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 5,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
Let me lay out 3 possible ways to invest in Bitcoin. One is you buy Bitcoin, the underlying asset. The second is you buy the spot ETF. The third is you buy MicroStrategy. Okay, so we talked about the headaches of buying Bitcoin, the underlying asset. You have to do it on a crypto exchange and put in place parallel custody, compliance, compensation, control systems. So that's the challenge of that. The closest thing, the most compelling idea for a plain vanilla Bitcoin investment of an institutional investor is you buy the spot ETF. You're getting the 1-to-1 correlation, for $1 million you put in, you're getting $1 million of Bitcoin. What's the positive? It's marginable, it's good collateral. I can buy it in a second, no money down. And I don't have to build parallel custody, control, compensation systems. So all of my problems are handled by Wall Street. What's the cost? 50 to 100 basis points a year. If I charge you 1% a year over the course of 20 years or over the course of your lifetime, it means that I take 20% of the money you invested at 1%. So there's a cost. 50 basis points means I get 10% of your money, approximately. So, but having said it all, I would pay you 50 to 100 basis points in order to be plugged into Wall Street. And it's not a problem. It's a lot better than the alternative, which is to rebuild all their systems and then finance themselves. So MicroStrategy is not that. MicroStrategy you could think of as a levered long Bitcoin company that pays you a yield. Okay, so I'm not going to call us an ETF, but because we're not a financial company, but we have $4.4 billion plus of Bitcoin and $2 billion plus of debt. So what we've done is we've levered the balance sheet with debt that costs us about 1.5% interest.
Wow.
So MicroStrategy takes advantage of its position as an operating company to do something that an ETF can't do. An ETF can't issue junk bonds. An ETF can't issue convertible bonds. An ETF can't do like an ATM like we could do, and an ETF can't buy Bitcoin with cash flows. So we have a lot of flexibility as an operating company, and we don't charge that fee. So we have $4.5 billion of Bitcoin, but we don't charge $45 million a year to the investors.
So you've got a market. The market cap today of MicroStrategy, if I'm looking at it now, is about $5 billion. You're holding $4.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Against that Bitcoin, you got about $2 billion worth of debt.
The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. However, Saylor asserts this journey is just beginning, comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment, with a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs. Saylor highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem. He also suggests that BlackRock, under the guidance of Larry Fink, will lead the charge in obtaining regulatory approval for a Bitcoin ETF. This move, he contends, will underscore Bitcoin's enduring relevance as an asset and its potential as a hedge against currency devaluation.
So you got about $2.5 billion of net Bitcoin, so to speak, right? Bitcoin less debt.
Yeah, it varies by the day. The real idea here is, what if I created an investment vehicle that paid you a yield instead of charging you a fee? And what if I was able to borrow money at 1.5% interest? I borrowed $1 billion at 0% interest and bought Bitcoin with it.
Insane.
So if you were
if
you were pro Bitcoin, let me give you a theoretical. If you get a 2% yield instead of paying a 1% fee, it's 60% difference over the lifetime of your asset. So, right. So if you have $1 billion invested and you're getting a 2% yield, right, you're actually picking up $20 million a year, right, instead of paying $10 million a year. So the dynamic of the company is very important. So you can imagine that if I don't charge you a fee, and if I have cheap leverage, then the benefit accrues to the common stock shareholders, right? Because I went and I borrowed $2.2 billion at 1.5% interest, and I bought Bitcoin with it. So what's the logical theoretical yield of Bitcoin? Is it more than 1.5% a year?
Well, I really
Let's say
hope
it was.
I really hope so.
If it was 15% a year, then we're scraping 14% positive real yield off of the debt, and so that would be 14% of $1 billion dollars or more. Actually, 14% of $2.2 billion. So that would be $300 million a year that accrues to the benefit of the common stock shareholders. You see, so the answer is there's always going to be a good market, and there's always going to be a bad market, right? There are things you shouldn't do, and there are things you should do. So MicroStrategy, to make a long story short, is a bit more complicated than a spot ETF, right? If you want something plain vanilla and simple, that it should basically correlate 1-to-1 with Bitcoin after you pay the fee, then you buy a spot ETF. But if you wanted to actually try to outperform Bitcoin, like MicroStrategy's outperform Bitcoin, our performance over the course of the 3 years is higher than Bitcoin performance. So if you want to outperform Bitcoin or outperform the spot ETF, you would do that by accretive financings. Like, for example, if our stock trades at a 30% premium to the underlying assets, and we sell $1 billion of equity, we actually capture $300 million of accretion to our shareholders, you see.
The traditional investment landscape, as Saylor asserts, has been shaken by economic volatility and uncertainties. The conventional wisdom of relying on bonds, stocks, or property for wealth preservation has come under scrutiny due to unprecedented circumstances. As central banks drive interest rates lower, the effectiveness of the 60-40 investment model is questioned, prompting investors to seek alternatives. The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. However, Saylor asserts that this journey is just beginning. The impact of Bitcoin is expected to continue shaping investment strategies, challenging traditional norms, and fostering a new era of financial possibilities. What do you think about the latest interview with Michael Saylor? And what are your thoughts on his insights into the paradigm shift driven by Bitcoin's emergence and its impact on crypto investment strategies globally? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you in the next video.